Hi, today we're aiming to do rust in 4 different ways. So this is what we're aiming for. Okay, so we start right away. Okay, so we can start out right away to go into the shading tab. And then we can, if you don't have Node Wrangler activated, I really recommend it. So you just go to Edit, Preferences, and then Add-ons and search for Node Wrangler and just activate it. So first off, we're aiming to do the box that is only rust or Cor-ten steel. So we start out with a noise texture, put it here, and drag it in the factor to the base color, and we can select the noise texture and press Ctrl T, and we can take the object into the vector. We can keep the mapping because sometimes it's good to have if you apply the material to another object. Then I want to lower the scale so the patches get bigger, and I want to max out the details, and I want to have a little higher roughness. And then to control the contrast better, I want to add a color ramp. And in this ramp, I can choose the colors for the base color. So we take this one and just change it to some brownish reddish color. And this one we can make it a bit darker brown. And we can add another color just to get some life into the material. Yeah, that looks great. Okay, so the next step could be to add a metallic or roughness values, but in this tutorial we will only work with the base color and the bump maps. Let's box select the noise texture and the color ramp and press Ctrl Shift D to keep the connections over here. And we can select the color ramp and press backspace to reset it. And then I also want to add a bump map. And we take the color into the height and the normal to normal. And I used to start out by working in full strength, so I can really see the bump pattern and know what I'm doing. I want the scale to be a little bit higher around here. And I want to lower the roughness a little bit. And then I think I also want to add another noise texture, so select this one and press Shift D to duplicate it. And this one I want to lower the details, and I want to bump up the scale a lot, maybe even more, something like that. And I want to lower the roughness. And already now it's starting to look kind of nice, but I think the bump map is too strong, so let's just lower the value until to something that you like. So this is the Cor-ten steel or completely rusted object, and now it's time to do the cube with the patch rust. So we select the cube and press Shift D and drag it over like that, and we duplicate the material. And we can call this new one patch rust, and the old one we can call Cor-ten. So take this one and we can reuse some of the nodes. So we can take this factor into this color ramp. Now we can bump up this to 1 again, so we see what's happening. And if you drag this down, and we can just drag these values until we get the patches that we want. But right now the colors is wrong, everything is just brown, so we need to change this color ramp up here. So we need to add a color of the material we want. So select this one, and I want the material to be white. Great. And as you can see, you need to tweak where the rust will appear. And the closer we move the white to the first rust color, the less bleed it will be. So it's something like that, and I think it looks quite okay. But I want to lower the bump a little bit. Great, but I also want to add some surface bump to the material that don't have any rust. So we can just delete one of these noise textures, and we can take this bump, press Shift D, drag it down to normal. We can take the factor to the normal, and we can take this color ramp, press Shift D, drag it down here, press backspace to reset it, and we can drag this up to 100 so we really see what's going on. And I realized that this color ramp ended up in the normal when you change that, so it goes to the height instead, and now we have a really rough surface, but I want it to be less hard, maybe something like that. And let's turn down the bump, something like that. Okay, great. Time to do the cube with the rust hole. So we take this cube and press Shift D, drag it in Y, and we copy this material and just call it the rust holes. Great. So we can actually move all of these down, and we can take this one, press Ctrl Shift D and drag it up so we keep the connection. We can take the color into the alpha. So if we start to change I want the holes to be big and many so you can really see them. But for this I think we need to change the roughness. So we can take the roughness up here somewhere. And you see the areas that turn flat, it's where the rust will go through. So I want to have more flat areas, something like that. Great. And I want the white material to still be there. So to fix this, we need to adjust the color ramp for the alpha, and you can see how it turns black, and right now there is no transparency if you're working Eevee. So we need to go into the material properties and go down here to blend mode and change it to alpha hashed, and now it should be see-through holes like this. Okay, but as you can see it's a bit pixelated, so the trick is to get the black and the white really close together, and then you get better holes. And the last thing you need to do is just to adjust the colors, how far up the rust you want, how far up on the edges you want the rust to go, or how much it should have bleed through like this. Then you can try out, and if you don't see anything of the color you can try to move it, or you can just really lighten it up or change it to an insane color like blue. And can I see the color anywhere? Nah. Okay, so we need to move these to see. Okay, so we need to move them even tighter, and then we can get, so it's just trial and error to get the different layers of the rust, something like that. Great. And the last method is where we just paint rust on, and this method to do texture painting is a variant of Ryan King's method that I really like. So we take this Cor-ten cube and press Shift D and drag it over here, and let's duplicate the material and call it rust paint. And first off we want to add another color ramp, so Ctrl Shift D, get a duplicate of this one, and we can reset it. And we want, if we paint, it should be rust, and if it's not painted it should just be the color I have chosen up here. So to combine them we can press Ctrl Shift right click like this, and we get a mix node. And if we go all the way down here to 0 we only get the white material, and if we go all the way to max we get the rust material. So control this, we need to have a image texture. So let's press Shift A, add an image texture, we put it here, we drag the color into the factor and we create a new image. Press new. Let's call this rust paint, and I want it to be 4K resolution, so let's just select and drag down and press 4096 and press OK. So right now this is completely black, but we need to change the color space to non-color, so it's just black or white. And if we now try to paint, we can go to the texture paint. We can go over here. Let's press on the viewport shading mode, and we can turn down the radius. Let's just to 15, and if you drag here, you can see it works as we expect. Where it's white is rust, and where it's black is just the other material. So this is what we're after, but we want to have a better brush. I want the strength to not be 1, I want to be maybe somewhere 0.6, and I want the stroke to have some jitter, and if you add jitter, the stroke will jump around. So if I drag now, you can see how it jumps like that, and I think that will add a nice effect to rust. And the fallout you can play around with, but I like this one. Great. And the last thing I want to do is go down to the texture, press new, press these two pills on the side and change, instead of image to movie, let's change this to clouds. And then I want the size to be much lower, so we get like this. Okay, so if I paint now, you can see it's kind of big, but it's better on the edge. So if it's just, and I want a smaller brush, we can just drag like this. But as you can see, it will not become as dark as this one, even if I paint on the same place several times. And this is because this brush now is both black and white. And to fix this, we can go back to the shading, and we just add another color ramp. So we can take this one and press Shift D, drag it up. And if you now drag in these, we can control the contrast like this. Great. Okay, and now I need to add some bump. So we can delete this one, and we can drag these two over here, and we can take the map from the rust paint and drag it into this color ramp, and we can max out the strength so we see what's happening. And what you can see is that it's inverted, it's standing out, and we don't want that. So yeah, let's just press invert, and now it's kind of rough, so we can just adjust the color ramp to our liking. And up here you can see it's starting to do what we want. But I want more control of my bump, and I also want these areas not to be flat. So I want another bump map for the rust areas. So we can take this noise texture from before, and we can press Shift A, and we can search for a color mix. So we put it over here, and we can drag this factor in to B, and the A I want to be completely white. We can box select and drag these over here. We can drag them even more. And I want this color ramp that is controlling the bump map to also control the other bump map. So we take this color into the factor, and let's take this bump map and press Shift D to duplicate it and drag the result into the height, and then the normal into the normal. And now we get another texture where the rust should be. So this is great, but I see that we need to fix the edges again. So let's drag and see. We just need to work with this. We can just work with the bump and just work with the color ramps to get the bump and the rust where you want it to be. And the last thing I want to do is that we can take these two, drag them over here and make another bump map, Shift D and drag it over here. And I want a bump map for the whole area, so we can actually take this noise texture again and drag this factor into the height, and this bump map will affect everything, so let's just keep it really low, something like that. So if we now try this out, if we go to the texture paint again, and we can just press X to and right click just to remove what we did earlier, and press X to go back to white, and right click to change the size of the brush. And now we can just, and I can drag down the strength even more, and I want a really small brush. So yeah, and then it's just to paint away. So this is how you can work with rust, but I really recommend that you work with roughness and metallic values as well. Thanks for watching, and if you like stuff like this, please like and subscribe. Thanks, bye.